Right, Tempranillo grapes. Do they make Rioja for 30 grand? We'll find out after the break.
Good evening. We interrupt ITV's late night schedule to cover a developing story, a major incident in central London. Witnesses say a van mounted the pavement on London Bridge, hitting several pedestrians just after 10 o'clock this evening. There are also reports of a stabbing attack. We can show you pictures from just a few moments ago. Armed police have closed the bridge in both directions. London Bridge Station is also closed. People have described seeing victims being treated on the roadside, some with knife wounds, it's reported. There's no official confirmation yet of how many people have been injured. Police say they are also responding to another incident at Borough Market. That's less than a mile away from London Bridge. Armed officers are at the scene there. And Scotland Yard say they are also dealing with an incident in Vauxhall. Well, let's take you now to our reporter Angus Walker, who is at London Bridge, on the north side of London Bridge. I believe he has some witnesses with him. Angus, what's the latest there? What can you tell us?
Well, let me bring you right up to date, because what we can see behind us now, and I'm close to Borough Market and London Bridge, are people being escorted away from the area, their hands on their heads, being escorted by armed police through the cordon. Behind me you can see police cars, ambulances have been arriving, fire engines have been arriving. This is clearly an ongoing incident. Police cars, marked and unmarked, have been speeding through the streets on the scene, around the scene. With me now, I'm joined by two people who saw what happened in this area. First of all, Luke Smith. Luke, what did you see?
I was standing down there on the bollard, and that's when I see the armed police at the corner of the restaurant, and about 10 seconds afterwards, they ran in, and that's when I heard the 3 gunshots. And the police told me to come back here. I've got all the footage on my phone, and that's the most I saw, to be honest.
And Jack Stagg, what did you see?
I don't see nothing, but I just heard the gunshots. That's when I started to run down this way in panicking. Of course, I was scared, but hopefully it will never happen again.
What was going through your mind, Luke?
Just panic, really. You know, it's scary to see this happening. Obviously, you're coming home on a night out. You don't want to be walking into this. You want to be going home safe, and everything's going to be all right.
What did you think was happening?
Well, I got told a friend's mum on the phone that there was an attack. Someone was run over a car. I think it was terrorists or something.
Thank you very much, both of you. Yes, British Transport Police are saying there have been multiple casualties. They say there have been multiple casualties, and I'll show you now more people being escorted. Let's turn the camera right round and see the activity here that's just happening. Police escorting people away. From time to time, the police will shout and ask people to run away, to move out of the area quickly. From time to time, police vehicles will speed up and down these streets. We've seen motorbikes, vans full of police, unmarked cars. The incident appeared to have lulled to a certain extent, and now they're moving us. The police are now moving us. Stay with us. Okay. We are being moved by the police. Yep. We are being moved by the police. And as I made my way here, I was walking along the embankment towards London Bridge when an armed officer pointed his gun at me and said, "Stop where you are," and then asked us to run to another group of people who were just around the corner. We were then escorted as a group by armed officers who clearly felt the need to protect us, and we were escorted to where we are now. We are now being moved again by the police. This is a fast-moving incident. It's changing by the minute, and clearly the police are very worried about what's happening and have received new information as we speak, as we've been on air. More vehicles arriving. These are armed units. You can tell by the yellow dot on the back of the vehicles that they are armed officers. I've also seen a squad of specialist firearms officers move onto the bridge about half an hour ago. We could also see a casualty being treated. We could also see a casualty being treated on the street behind us about 20 minutes ago. And casualties being taken away by ambulance. As you can see, the police moving us urgently away. Still a number of members of public here, as well as media, but we're being moved away to this position.
Angus, obviously, dramatic scenes that are still unfolding. You're being moved along, other members of the public. There's obviously a very, very big police operation that is happening at the moment. Let us just talk now to our security editor who joins us now in the studio, Rohit Kachru. Rohit, a major incident unfolding in the capital this evening.
Multiple major incidents unfolding in the capital, and we saw from Angus's report there the drama that is still unfolding at the scene. This incident now more than an hour old, and what's significant here is that in the last few minutes the Metropolitan Police have issued this run, hide, tell advice. This is the first time that I recall this advice being issued while an incident has been unfolding. It is significant because it appears to indicate that the incident is not yet contained. We see here, Lucrezia, the Twitter feed of the Metropolitan Police. Scotland Yard has been telling us to look right here for their very latest advice. It shows us in the last few minutes the unfolding events. 32 minutes ago, information available at this stage from 22:08 p.m. Officers responded to reports of a vehicle in collision with pedestrians on London Bridge. Then, moments later, we saw the second update. Officers have responded to reports of stabbings in Borough Market, a second incident there. Armed officers responding and shots have been fired. Then, third of all, officers now responding to an incident in the Vauxhall area. I should tell you, Lucrezia, that incident was close to the MI6 headquarters, but I'm being told by senior security sources that MI6 is not involved. Their building is not involved in that third reported incident there.
We can see the live scene here, Rohit. Of course, all our reporters, a lot of the press have been moved further back. There is a cordon, of course, around the area because this is an ongoing incident. This is extremely serious and it is ongoing. What will police be doing? What are they looking for exactly now?
Well, even driving here through the streets of central London, the amount of resources that are being deployed to this, there is no doubt a great deal of panic, but the reality is that this is precisely the sort of attack that security sources and police forces have been rehearsing for, a marauding and perhaps coordinated attack. We are looking at three separate incidents here. We have seen reports that gunfire has been used, and we see also that potentially knives and vehicles have been used as well. So the tactics behind this attack, and it does appear to have been a terrorist attack, seem to indicate that we're looking at precisely the sort of attack that the security services have been rehearsing for. They are now responding to. Well,
you say we're working on the assumption now that this is a terror attack and a multiple attack. We just heard that there will be a Cobra meeting tomorrow. As you say, emergency services have been expecting something like this. Yeah,
that's to be expected. Yeah. It happened very shortly after the attack in Manchester, almost a fortnight ago. It feels like it was so long ago, but that is standard procedure. You know, a Cobra meeting is to respond not necessarily to make decisions, but it's to respond. And of course, they will be assessing and analysing what we're seeing on the streets of London with the lessons that have been learned from Manchester. But this appears to have been a very different attack. This was not one attacker, it appears, based on those early reports. But we're talking about several incidents which we assume to have been coordinated. Certainly the small pieces of information coming out of Scotland Yard appear to link all three of these incidents.
And reports as well of multiple injuries, casualties.
That's right, that's right. London Ambulance Service are giving out a very small amount of information, but it does appear that there have been multiple casualties.
Confirmed as yet. I think we take you now to our reporter, Helen Callaghan. Now, she's on the north side of London Bridge. Helen, what more can you tell us from where you are?
That's right, I am on the northern side of London Bridge. We are at the police cordon. We have just been moved on to make way for ambulances leaving London Bridge, and we've just witnessed a police van driving at speed through the police cordon. So this is an ongoing incident. I can confirm that this end too, just like Angus, who was at the southern end of the cordon. When we arrived, which was minutes after the incident, we believe, there were lots of shocked and extremely scared people running across the bridge. The police, the emergency services were already here at the bridge, and they were treating people at the scene. Those who could were told to run to get out of the way. When they reached us, they were extremely shaken, but they were able to tell us a little bit of what they had seen. One witness told me that he had been taken out of a restaurant nearby by an armed police response unit, and he's been told to run. Another witness said he was on his way back home after a night out. He was going towards the train station, and a police officer told him to run for his life. Another witness said it was extremely scary. I'm extremely shaken. I don't want to talk about what happened there, but we have had several people who witnessed what happened, and they do report that a knife was involved. But this is an ongoing incident.
Helen, you say that you spoke...
There's something happening at the moment on the bridge. Police are still there.
Helen, you say that you've spoken to several witnesses. What else specifically were they saying to you about the different incidents that have been reported this evening? Two different incidents, one at London Bridge and one at Borough Market as well. Presumably it would have been a very busy time on a Saturday night. Lots of people, very popular area.
It was extremely busy. The people I spoke to were on the northern side of the bridge, many of whom had tried to walk across the bridge from the south side. So they were reporting a lot of chaos, confusion. They weren't sure about what had happened. They certainly didn't know that there were multiple incidents taking place. All they could say was what they had seen, and they reported seeing people who were injured on the bridge. We also saw people who were being treated at the scene, and we believe that the police were then using, and the emergency services were then using, some of the buses that were still on the bridge as sort of triage centres and holding people in there and administering first aid at the scene. Then they took a whole load of people who seemed to be in a better condition away from the scene, but they took them somewhere that we don't know that location at the moment.
All right, Helen Callaghan, thank you for the moment. In a moment, we'll return to our reporter, Angus Walker. But first of all, we're going to just show you some amateur video that was taken by one of Angus's guests we heard from just a few minutes ago. Let's just show you this video now, and it appears to show gunshots. Let's take a look.
Apparently there's been an attack.
All It's not entirely clear, but there's possibly some dull shots there in the background. Let's take you back now to Angus Walker, who is on the south side of London Bridge for us this evening. Angus, we saw you being moved along earlier on by police. This is an unfolding incident. What is happening now? What can you see?
Yeah, we've been moved back by the police, and you can just see behind me armed units speeding towards London Bridge and Borough Market, which is further down the street behind me in the dark, where the blue lights at the end of the street is. If you want to know where we are, we're very close to the Shard, which many people around the country will know, the very tall building, the tallest building in London. So that's the landmark close to where we are. And clearly, this is still a very fast-moving incident around here. We have armed units arriving every few minutes, speeding along the road past us. People still being asked to move away from the area. Police officers shouting at members of the public to get away. There's a helicopter above, and we've been hearing, as you saw from the video, we've been hearing accounts from people who are here in this area when they suddenly heard gunshots from the police, from armed police, and a lot of confusion and being asked to run away quickly. And as I was making my way here, an armed officer pointed his gun at me and said, "Stop where you are," and then asked me to run to another group of people. We were then escorted together, huddled close together, and we were very quiet. People were panicking. People were frightened, naturally, as we were being escorted through empty streets by armed officers who were scanning alleyways, scanning around corners, pointing torches at anyone who came close to us. Clearly, they felt that they needed to protect us. Clearly, they felt there was a threat still out there. And from the activity around us this evening, you can actually feel that there is a sense of threat still here on the streets of this part of London.
Angus, you say that the sense of threat very much is still there. We've seen just now video footage of people being escorted by police, some with their hands on their heads. Is there a fear, a sense of panic there this evening?
There have been people who have been very upset, very frightened, quite naturally. When you have this amount of police activity, when you have this amount of confusion, when uncertainty, when people don't really know what's going on, and then when you have the reports, as we've had from the police, of multiple casualties, of stabbing incidents in different parts of London, in different parts of the city, then people are, of course, very frightened. I have seen people crying. I have seen people who don't want to talk about what they've seen further down these streets and have been trying to get away as fast as possible.
All right, Angus Walker, for the moment, thank you. We're going to show you some more footage. Now, this was filmed in a pub near London Bridge. Well, this is very dramatic footage. It appears to be armed police inside a pub telling people in there to get down, responding, of course, to claims of an attacker possibly still at large around London Bridge in the area this evening. Let us take you now, let's go back to our security editor, Rohit Kachru. Rohit, do we know anything more that you can tell us that's happening this evening?
Clearly, the picture is still absolutely confusing. We see it from our images coming into us live here at ITV News. We see it from eyewitness reports on the ground. We see it across social media. In fact, as I speak to you, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, tweeted, "Whatever the United States can do to help out in London and the UK, we will be there. We are with you. God bless," his tweet just moments ago. But clearly a confused situation. We are talking about 3 incidents here around central London, London Bridge, Borough Market very close by, and Vauxhall just south of the River Thames. An incident, it appears, reports of an incident quite close to the MI6 headquarters, but I'm being told that MI6 is not directly involved in this incident. And most significantly, perhaps, Lucrezia, in the advice that is coming out of Scotland Yard, their advice has been fairly sparse, but they are issuing this significant run, hide, tell advice. In the United States, it's run, hide and fight. Here in the UK, it's run, hide and tell, which indicates that this is not contained.
I think we can show that Donald Trump tweet now. Whatever the United States can do to help out in London and the UK, we will be there. We are with you. God bless. Rohit, we are working on the assumption now that this is a terrorist attack, that this is a multiple attack that's taken place in London. It's still unfolding. It's not that long since the attack in Westminster. Security services and emergency services would have been expecting something again.
Yeah, I suspect so. I mean, let's remember that terrorism is not defined by the method, but by the motive. But certainly here, the methods used do appear to indicate acts of terrorism, perhaps. There are reports of gunfire, reports of stabbings, reports too of a vehicle being used. And all of this does have parallels with what we've seen in recent terrorist attacks, not only here in the UK, but also right around Europe as well, Lucrezia.
We just heard a statement from Jeremy Corbyn, Labour leader, who has described this as brutal and shocking. Let's talk about the security at London Bridge. Of course, after the attack at Westminster Bridge and Parliament Square, security was heightened there, but there wouldn't be the same kind of security around this area.
Well, I think security in all of central London has been particularly high, particularly actually at London Bridge.
At the station?
At the station there. There is a huge mainline station for viewers who don't know the area. It is also popular with tourists, and we saw that just after the Manchester attack, when security across the UK was heightened to the level of critical, it was particularly high-profile venues, and I suspect London Bridge would have been ranked as being among those that were indicated that were isolated as being, as requiring that extra level of security. You know, London Bridge Station, as people around London will know, is somewhere where there are armed police there very often. It is a high-profile venue. It's a high-profile target, perhaps, and so that particularly is somewhere where we will have seen a great deal of police attention. We saw the response came within seconds, actually within 2 minutes. We saw that armed police were on the scene and attempting to deal with this first incident, but this appears to have been one of 3 incidents around central London.
And a huge response, as you point out there. We see officers with shields and helmets, and armed officers in particular. This is very significant.
This is absolutely significant. I'm looking at the Metropolitan Police Twitter feed. It feels like a fairly basic form of gathering news, but we're being told by Scotland Yard that this is where we will get the latest information. And 41 minutes ago, they reported that at 8 minutes past 10, officers responded to reports of a vehicle in collision with pedestrians on London Bridge. Moments later, they then updated us to say that officers have also been responding to reports of stabbings in Borough Market. And thirdly, officers reported to be responding to an incident in Vauxhall. Now, you know, there's a great deal of choreography that goes around Scotland Yard releasing information, and so they're incredibly cautious when they update us here, and they are now in a state of their highest level of caution. And so everything that we see coming out of Scotland Yard we can assume to be absolutely true in this whirlwind of speculation and false reporting that we're seeing online. These are the facts.
And it's the very, very telling statement on that Met Police Twitter feed: run, hide and tell.
Yeah, run, hide, tell, which means that the incident is not contained. In the United States, in the United States, you know, this sort of thing is actually run, hide and fight. It indicates a different nature of policing right here. Mm-hmm. But actually it's run, hide and tell here in the UK. We see, you know, this is the advice that we're getting at. You can see it here. Run, hide, tell. It's rare for this issue to be, for this sort of information to be given out by the police. In fact, I can't remember an incident unfolding, you know, during the time that the incident is unfolding, for Scotland Yard to actually put out details like this. But there we have it. Run, hide, tell. It indicates a level of panic. It indicates a great deal of uncertainty. Also indicates, perhaps most significantly, that officers at Scotland Yard do not believe that the incident is yet contained.
Are we to assume that they are looking for perpetrators here?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption. Yep. We don't have the latest information about arrests, if there have been any, but I think that is a fair assumption at this point to make from that run, hide, tell advice.
Rohit, thank you for the moment. Let's go back to Helen Callaghan, who is on the northern side of London Bridge this evening. Helen, what more can you tell us from where you are?
Well, since we last spoke, a police van arrived, an unmarked black van, and went onto London Bridge from the north side where we are by the cordon. Inside there were police. They were wearing body armour and also wearing helmets. There are already armed response units on the bridge. We can't see round the corner, so we don't know if they are still this end of the bridge. But we do know that within the last hour or so, we've certainly been moved back twice now. We've been told by the police to get out of the way, and they've changed the cordon so that they've cleared the area of people as much as possible, so it's much quieter at this end of the bridge now. When we first arrived, there were many people here. It was bustling, it was really busy. People were coming back towards the station after a night out. They were walking from the south side to the north side when they reported to us that they were told by the emergency services to run. In the words of one of the witnesses I spoke to, he said, we were shouted at. I didn't take much notice at first, but then the police said, run right now. And I ran for my life. It was extremely scary. Another man reported that he was working in a restaurant somewhere nearby, and he said that armed police came into the restaurant and evacuated the place. When he came out onto the bridge, he said that he saw people with what he believed were knife wounds. When we arrived here, we certainly saw emergency services at the scene treating people who were injured. They took one of several double-decker buses that were on the bridge, and they used those, it appeared, as triage centres. So they were using them to treat people for first aid and to give them some help. Other people who seemed to be in a better condition, who were able to walk, though clearly extremely shocked and dazed by what was going on, were taken by police at some speed out of the area, just away from the scene.
All right, Helen, for the moment, thank you. We've just heard in the last few minutes that the Prime Minister, Theresa May, has issued a statement. She said that the terrible incident in London is being treated as a potential act of terrorism. Rohit, our security editor, Theresa May saying that this is being treated now as a potential act of terrorism.
And those words aren't used lightly. They, you know, these sorts of statements that come out in the wake of a terrorist attack are treated incredibly cautiously. And so terrorism really is a suspicion here. This would not come out of Number 10. This would not be issued by the Prime Minister in a statement unless they were fairly sure that this was the case. And as I say, you know, terrorism is not about the method, although the methods used here do appear to mimic, do appear to parallel some of the incidents that we've seen, not only here in the UK, but also right around Europe. You know, the use of vehicles, we saw that in Berlin, we saw it in Nice, we've seen it elsewhere. But terrorism is not about the method, it is about the motive behind the attack. But clearly there is some indication, there is some intelligence to indicate that for the Prime Minister herself to say with a great deal of caution that this is a potential act of terrorism here.
And images there and pictures that we saw, dramatic pictures of members of the public being escorted by police. They looked scared, they looked panicked. Reports of a van, reports of knife attack as well.
That's right. And we see these dramatic pictures here in Lucrezia. We should just dwell on this just for a moment. I mean, imagine the panic that we see there. And look at these images here. It appears, according to eyewitnesses on the scene, that people who were in bars and restaurants and pubs around the area were told to leave immediately by police, some by armed police, to try to work out who there were innocent people and whether among them there were potentially attackers. This was the immediate tactical response by armed officers, you know, who stormed into some of these buildings, office blocks, homes, pubs, restaurants, and told people to leave immediately. We see from the eyewitness reports that are coming out of the scene that there was a great deal of panic and a great deal of suspicion from police officers and investigators there who were trying to work out whether there were people in these vicinities who were actually attackers.
All right, Rohit, thank you for the moment. Let's go back to Angus Walker, who is at London Bridge on the south side of London Bridge. Angus, we're seeing many pictures of distressed people being escorted by police, reports of a van that veered into pedestrians, reports also of a knife attack. What more can you tell us?
Well, I'm standing on a road that leads down to Borough Market, where there have been reports of stabbing incidents, and also to London Bridge. The Shard, that very tall building in the middle of London, is very close by. We can see that building down. Now, there are still many police vehicles. This road behind me is all the...
All right, prayers to have a problem with the sound there with Angus. We'll take you back to him if we can. Rohit, just tell us again, there's going to be a Cobra meeting tomorrow. The Prime Minister said this, and also that this is being treated as a terrorist attack now.
Yeah, and the latter of those two is perhaps more significant. You know, Cobra meetings are now held fairly frequently, particularly in the aftermath of an incident like this. But for the Prime Minister herself to say that this is a suspected act of terrorism, with all the caution that an incident like this would be treated and the language around it, means that significantly, once again, it does appear that the UK is responding to another terrorist attack. This one in London, once again, you know, 2 weeks almost after Manchester, it is now London that has come under attack, it does appear.
All right, Rohit, just for the moment, thank you. We're going to show you some video footage that we've just received in from London Bridge Tube Station. Now, this is we can see armed police there, fully armed police there, inside the station. Very dramatic, and what must have been very, very terrifying for the tube passengers there. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, this is the first image that I've seen of armed officers actually on the London transport network. This is, you know, a rare sort of thing. We saw when
around the station, but
we see them around the station, but rarely actually on the platforms here. In fact, even last week when the terror threat level was raised to critical, you know, this is not the sort of scene that we saw, and it perhaps works with the run, hide, tell advice to indicate the level of caution that is clearly being used here by police officers in London, and perhaps to the level of panic that there is among the security services right in the heart of London tonight.
Rohit, thank you. We can go back now to Angus Walker, who is at the south side of London Bridge. Angus, what can you tell us about what's happening there right now? And do you know anything about any reports of injuries or casualties tonight?
We have seen one casualty being treated about half an hour ago, yes. He or she were being treated up on the road behind me, where you can see there are still many police vehicles. I'm joined now by someone who saw... Sir, could you just come and tell me your name?
Hi, my name's Neil.
Neil, what did you see, Neil?
I just saw, the main thing I saw was an arrest being made. Maybe, definitely like 2, 3 men, young men.
What area was that with this in?
It was Borough High Street, so they were being pushed against a shuttered shop front and being shouted at to you know, put your hands up and all of that stuff. And
what did they look like?
I would have said they're youngish males, maybe mid-20s, maybe a bit younger, all in black. Well, they had like black hoodies, black hair, and yeah, I mean, I saw the backs of them, but it was a heavy police presence. The police weren't. It wasn't the armed police. They looked to me more like riot police. So I didn't see any kind of weapons or anything like that, but there was obviously an arrest and a very, very heavy police presence there.
You were on a night out tonight?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And so talk me through what happened to you.
Well, I was just at a friend's opening this evening, and somebody arrived at the opening. They'd been cycling through London. I think they'd come over London Bridge, and he was really freaked out. He said there's somebody like randomly stabbing people, and he was really freaked out, and I just thought, right, I'm going to try and get home. But I guess I got kind of pushed down. There was a lot of roads cordoned off by the police, so I had to walk around the back of Guy's Hospital, and I found myself in an alleyway, unbeknownst to me, in the kind of maybe in a kind of centre of things.
Thank you very much, Neil. Okay. Thanks very much. As you can see, a lot of people caught up in this, and the police still asking people to leave the area. The streets remain closed off at the moment.
Angus Walker, thank you. We can see there many people are still being affected this evening. An ongoing incident that is unfolding around the London Bridge area and the Borough Market area. Rohit, final thoughts on what is happening here? This is a situation that will continue into the night.
Yeah, and it does appear that these incidents, multiple incidents, are not quite contained. The latest advice in the last few seconds from the Metropolitan Police saying we have plans for every incident and keep these under constant review. But the Met add, please continue to avoid London Bridge and Borough Market to allow the emergency services to deal with the ongoing incidents. The use of the word terrorism by the Prime Minister significant. That appears to be where this investigation in its early first hours are heading. Terrorism is not about method, but the methods used here do mimic recent terrorist attacks that we've seen in the UK and right around Europe as well.